Hello, everyone. This is Maya Zahira with psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And in today's mini lesson, I want to share an important tip with you for psychic protection. This is something that is so simple and might seem obvious, but it's really important. And I think there are probably plenty of times when you can relate to not following this advice. Okay. So the advice for psychic protection is to listen to your gut feelings. Listen to your gut feelings, whether it has to do with a person or a situation or something else that might be unsafe, like literally unsafe in a physical way, or unsafe spiritually, or maybe you have a gut feeling that they are not telling you the truth, or that there's something that will not be beneficial for you. So when you fail to listen to the gut feeling and you go ahead and enter into a personal or professional relationship with someone, or you go ahead and you ignore the gut feeling and you go ahead and move into the house or the rental property, even though you had a bad feeling about it, or you go ahead with the business deal or the whatever, like it can be literally anything, professional, personal, spiritual, working with a certain mentor or a healer. Everybody says great things about them, but your gut tells you that something isn't right. So those times when you don't listen to the gut feeling, that gives the dark forces, negative spiritual forces, an opportunity to build more negative attack towards you in your life. Okay? So here's how the dark forces work. And I use the term dark forces for all the negative spiritual forces that are out there. The dark forces tend to not go from 0 to 100 instantaneously when attacking a person. It usually starts slow. There are some opportunities where you could avoid the situation, but if you go ahead and say yes to something that's non-beneficial, then that gives that negative energy an opportunity to build. And then things will get worse and worse. Okay, so like the first doorway for the dark forces to come in is usually through some negative personal scenario. And if you listen to your gut feeling from the beginning, then a lot of times you can avoid the negative personal or professional scenario in the first place, which then disallows that ramping up effect, because usually it will start off with some personal drama or professional drama, like some kind of drama that ramps up, and then that stresses you out, weakens your system, and then more spiritual type of negative activity will start to ramp up in phase 2, and then it will just get worse and ramp up more and more. So can you think of times when you had a gut feeling, or maybe just a straight out intuition, that something was not beneficial, or that some person was really dark, even though everybody loved this person and they had a lot of charisma, but you just had a bad feeling and you went ahead anyway? Okay. Again, there's like infinite number of examples of how this could show up for you in your life. Do you have times when you didn't listen to your gut feeling, and then now what you know about spiritual warfare, dark forces, from watching some of the videos on my YouTube channel, now that you know a little bit about spiritual warfare, can you look back and see how ignoring the gut instinct that you had, ignoring that in the beginning, gave the opportunity for some drama to build up, which then allowed more drama, and maybe even for spiritual warfare to build up in your life, actual paranormal situations, and that sort of thing. Can you see how it could build from there? Wherever you're watching this, I invite you to share a little bit about your story in the comments. And I'm going to go ahead and share a story just to give you a more tangible example to explain what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to share at least one story. A few years back, I was invited to be roommates with someone, to live with someone, to be housemates. And when this was first presented to me, I immediately said no. Like, my instantaneous truth of my whole being, of my body, was no. It like came out of my mouth instantly. No, thank you so much for that thought, for that idea. Thank you so much for the offer, but it's a big no. It's not the right fit for me, and I didn't feel good about it. But then dark forces kept poking away and trying to find a way for this to happen. And where I was living at the time, apartment complex that I was in during the COVID lockdown in Arizona, the apartment complex was going downhill very fast, and there started to be major problems there to where I could no longer sleep there. It's a long story. I won't go into all of that, but literally it got to the point where I became desperate, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to get out of this place. And if you remember, at least where I was living, all of a sudden it was very hard to find housing at that time. And so I got desperate. And so I went back to this person and I said, I've thought about it again, and I've decided that the answer is yes. And I truly believe that the person who made the offer was coming from a good place. Okay. But, and I'm going to leave out a lot of details here. I'm just going to say that the situation ended up being very horrible. I did move in there, and there was a lot of, at least at first, the major issue at first was energy vampirism, where I was trying to hold my own energy and the housemate wanted to source energy from me. So kept trying to plug into my energy, and I wouldn't allow it. And that made this person more and more and more upset. And then that's when the outright spiritual warfare started to build. There started to be demonic activity in the house. And it just, like, the energy got darker and darker. I want to say this person did not intentionally call that in, but it was from their own unhealed inner shadow that all of that was unfolding. And that finally I was able to find another place to move to. It was the longest 9 months of my life. I just gotta say, if you've ever had a horrible housing situation, you know what I mean. This person, again, is not a bad person. Sometimes people are guided by dark forces to act out their unhealed inner shadow. And there was a lot of that going on. And it was really unfortunate because it could have been a good situation, but it was a very horrible situation. And I finally was able to move, and I had to do major spiritual warfare, major spiritual cleansing and clearing. When this person went out of town for a week, I had to do hours and hours and hours of clearing in order to clear out enough of that dark energy so that I could get unstuck and be able to find another place, because the energy there was, it was like a vortex that was keeping me stuck. It was like, it started off as secondary psychic attack, where the person was being guided to try to plug into my energy, and then it turned into major spiritual warfare. It was awful. Okay. Now, I don't beat myself up over this. I know that it was a hard time for a lot of people. It was during COVID. I think it was like right after the lockdown, and housing was difficult. I was living in a state where I didn't know hardly anybody. It was tough. I made the best decision that I knew how. But it is a perfect example of what I was talking about, where my original gut feeling was correct. This is not a good situation. Do not do it. But I decided to ignore that. So even I have done that sometimes. I decided to ignore that, and I went ahead and did it anyway. And that gave the dark forces the opportunity to do this like multi-layer approach that I see happens with a lot of people, where it starts off with some personal drama or secondary psychic attack, which means that a person is being guided by dark forces to act out or do things that are unhealthy toward the targeted individual. And then it ramps up into actual spiritual warfare, entities, and that sort of thing. And so that's a common pattern. So back to you. Can you think of any times when you didn't, first of all, when you didn't listen to your intuition, and you should have? But since you're on my channel, you've probably also had paranormal situations as well. So in addition to all of us who've had times when things didn't go well, when we didn't listen to our gut, that's a pretty common scenario. But since you're here and you've probably had paranormal experiences as well, can you relate to my story where you had a gut feeling that some situation or person was not good, and then you went ahead and then it ended up turning into a major spiritual warfare situation? Can you think of any examples of that? When you share your stories in the comments, it actually helps other people who read your comment, other people who have similar stories. So please don't ever feel like you're taking up space by sharing. I encourage you to share anything that you've gone through if you feel comfortable. And that helps other people to know that they're not alone as well. It helps us all to like process and understand what we've been through so that we can try to avoid it in the future. So this whole scenario has come to mind for me recently because I'm making some changes in my life, and I'm really paying attention like to what my gut is telling me. Is this scenario or this person or this whatever, does this feel okay? Does this feel like it's a match? This situation or this person, it feels like there's a lot of drama. I'm going to say no to that. And so the more we can practice that, the less chance dark forces will have a chance to ramp things up. And I'm going to tell you, things have been overall so much more peaceful in my life, even though I do this work where I'm helping people with major spiritual warfare issues in their lives. But the fact that I keep my own life really clean and clear as much as possible, by listening to my gut and following my intuitions, that has helped to make my life so much more peaceful. And I believe that you can do that as well with some practice. So I'm interested in hearing your stories, thoughts, and questions. So feel free to share it in the comments. As always, I'm sending you all my love. And if you want to connect with me more, or you want more information, you can find that on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com.